What is up, Coach Emma here, and welcome back to the Fit Habit Life podcast, where we cut through the noise, talk real health and fitness, sustainable fat loss, and habits that actually work. And today on the podcast, I will be talking about, just in general, relationship to food, how to include foods that might not fit a quote-unquote healthy diet, when to make allowances, when to probably be a little bit more stringent with your diet, just to provide some feedback. The holidays are coming up. There was already Thanksgiving, but we got Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, and whatever other holiday parties are around the corner. So I figured I'd talk about this topic, and somebody who listens to my podcast asked me to. So I'm like, cool. I'll talk about this. It's a fun topic. Kind of. I guess depends on who you are. But anyway, before I dig in, just wanted to thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed the show so far, if you could share this podcast on whatever social platform you use, maybe text it to a friend you think it might help, or even just rate the show on whatever platform you're listening to it on and share it and subscribe. That would really help me help more people. It just helps me get in front of more people and debunk a lot of the crap that's out there. So, yeah. So now let's dig in. So overall, I'm going to talk about my kind of mentality when it comes to nutrition in general, when to sort of turn up the dial, when to dial it back, and that sort of stuff. And hopefully you kind of know if you've been listening to the podcast, but there might be some new listeners out there. So I figured I'd chat about this topic a bit. But in general, when it comes to food and nutrition, my approach with my clients and my personal life is 80-20, 90-10. And by that I mean 80 to 90% of the foods that you eat should be very nutrient dense, should be whole, unprocessed foods. So basically come from the earth, are living in some capacities, like animals, plants, and then minimally processed foods like grains, protein powder, I don't know, stuff like that. And then the other 10 to 20% should be fun foods, indulgent foods, foods that have other values that are not necessarily nutrient dense or super, sorry, I had to itch my nose and I tapped the mic, aren't super quote unquote healthy, standard healthy value, right? And so my approach is there's room for anything in a diet. You can fit in any food into your diet. And what I've noticed is having that mindset with most of my clients has been very, very helpful, because part of my unhealthy relationship to food is I thought I couldn't eat certain foods. And so when I got access to those foods, I would binge and overindulge and eat way more than is necessary and just feel crappy. And then I'd restrict, and it was this kind of binge and restrict sort of cycle. It wasn't like a clinically diagnosed binge eater or anything, but it's if you think you can't have a pastry, you might have 3 pastries. I wasn't binging to the extent of getting sick. I don't know if that makes sense. But anyway, so first what I do with my clients is we focus on protein and fiber. We focus on adding in protein and fiber into their diet, because that's going to improve the nutrient quality of their diet. It's going to help them feel better. It's going to help them recover better. It's going to help their digestion. And it's not restrictive. We're not pulling anything out of the diet. We're adding foods in. So you can't not eat chips. I'm not don't eat chips, don't have soda, don't do these things. I'm hey, we're going to focus on trying to hit this protein goal. It's going to be challenging, but over time we're going to get there. And in order to hit that protein goal, usually what happens is people will opt for healthier food choices and opt out of the foods that don't necessarily serve them in this phase in life. And so that helps create a much healthier relationship to food because as they're eating more protein and fiber, I'm also getting them to connect to how they feel. So, like, you're eating more protein now, awesome. How did you feel after you ate that meal? Did you have more energy? Did your digestion improve? Do you feel like you're recovering better from the workouts? How's your sleep quality, right? I'm asking these questions to get them to think and connect that value to the food. But that doesn't mean they can't eat the other things. It's just now because they're on a health and fitness journey, I'm trying to get them to understand the values of those super nutrient dense whole foods. And then when they do go back to, let's say, what they used to eat before, they might notice a difference in how they feel and connect that to those foods that don't necessarily serve them all the time. And so they tend to opt for those healthier choices. But once we've increased the fiber and protein intake, then I usually have my clients start to track their calories just to see how much they're eating. If their calories are pretty low and they're super active, we would do something that's called like a reverse diet. I think it's kind of overhyped, but for a lot of the clients that come to me, it's actually really beneficial because I work with a lot of overachiever type of people. And so they tend to slash their calories in half. And oftentimes what that does is they lose muscle mass. Then they have these big binge restrict kind of things. So bumping up their average calorie intake to a more sustainable range will not only help them recover from their training, help them build muscle, but also help them remove those like unhealthy, overindulgent days where they're eating way over their maintenance range and they tend to stabilize and tend to eat a much healthier amount of food. And so, anyway, after I quote unquote reverse diet them, find their top end of maintenance, and they build muscle, they feel better. They usually start to lean out a little bit. Bloating is reduced because they're eating more fiber and protein. And usually waistline reduces because partly gut health is improving, but also partly they're leaning out because they're building muscle and burning body fat usually. So anyway, so we get to that range. And then, and in the reverse diet, it is really important to have enough protein and to fuel your body adequately. But that doesn't mean you can't include some of those like indulgent foods. It shouldn't be a regular thing. Like you shouldn't have a cookie with every meal. If you have a cookie a day or a cookie every other day, that's totally fine. And so I try to educate my clients on that. Because if you're having something that you really enjoy every single day, you don't feel the need to overdo it on those days when you get access to it because you told yourself you can't eat it. I'm kind of going all over the place for this, but anyway, once they've built muscle, they've leaned out a little bit, their calories are in a much better spot. That's when we will cut down and reduce their calories for usually, depends on the client, depends how much weight they have to lose, but could be anywhere from 10 weeks to 6 months. I've had some clients that were really overweight, so we stayed in a deficit for a longer period of time, but I was monitoring their biofeedback, which is how they feel, their mood, their sleep quality, their energy levels, their digestion, making sure that we're not negatively impacting their health. And so when your calories are higher, it becomes a lot easier to do the 90-10, 80-20 rule because you have so much more room in the budget to include some foods that aren't necessarily quote unquote healthy. But when you're in a cut, it can be a lot more difficult depending on where your calories are at. Because a cookie, if you go to crumble cookie, could be like 1,000 calories. And if your cut is like 2,000 calories, then there's no way you're going to eat a whole crumble cookie. So something I also work through with my clients is I have them identify like, what are the foods that you love? If it was your last meal on earth, like what do you want to eat? Can you include that into your day-to-day? Some it depends. Like for me, what I love is I love popcorn. I love ice cream. I have them every day. My ice cream is a Ninja Creamy, so it's a protein shake in an ice cream form. Popcorn, I home make it every night with my husband. We watch a movie or a show or just unwind and chat and munch on popcorn. And I have that every single day. But like some clients, right, their favorite foods might be like a deep dish pizza. It's like that probably you can't really include every day. You could probably make some type of pizza once a week at home. And the deep dish might be like a once a month, once every other month thing because it is really calorie dense. And so it's just kind of connecting to like, okay, what is the food that you enjoy? Is there a better option that you can make at home that might satisfy that craving? Or is this an experience that you want to experience? Because sometimes that's just the case. And here I have an anecdotal story. So this past weekend, we did this mobility workshop, and across the street was I didn't do it, so I didn't host it. I went to my buddy Logan to Champ Camp Fitness. Really awesome. He's a trainer here in Utah. He also does online coaching. You should follow him on Instagram. But anyway, there was this donut shop that is across the street from where the mobility workshop was held. And my husband has been wanting to try this donut shop for like 2 years. Because when he took my car into the shop, so we have roles in our household. I know nothing about cars. My husband is the car guy. So if we have car problems, he handles those. Anyway, I do more of the typical wife duties, cooking, dishes, cleaning the house, laundry. He does a lot of the manly stuff because I don't like manual labor, but I like to lift weights. Irony, yes. Anyway, so he took the car into the shop and he bought them donuts just to get on their good graces, be kind, whatever, from that donut shop. But he did not eat one. He's been wanting to try one for 2 years. So we were there and I'm like, you know what? Let's just try a donut. So we brought it home and honestly, it was super good. Totally worth it. I haven't had a donut in probably a couple years, and my husband loves donuts. And while I had just gotten home from a trip and I had eaten out and all this stuff for like 5 days straight. I'm like, this is a time I don't want to sacrifice. Like, this is an experience I want to have with my husband. So I ate the donut and it was damn good. And I don't regret it. I will definitely be getting a donut from them again. Shout out to Spudley's. It's a local donut shop in Utah County. They got 2 locations. I think one's in Lehigh, one's in like Linden or something like that. Anyway, check them out. Highly recommend just the glazed. It was super good. Like the other one was okay, but classic glazed, best donut. Anyway, donuts are not my favorite food either. They're one of my husband's favorite foods, but it was like, for me, it was the experience, getting the donut, sharing it with him, enjoying it. Right, and so sometimes it's worth having it, even if it wasn't part of the plan that you planned or it's not your favorite thing. It's worth experiencing. But sometimes it's not. Like for the holidays are coming around and there's going to be a lot of sweet treats, a lot of parties, a lot of indulgent foods. And so oftentimes what I recommend you do, like recommend my clients do, what I do, is I eat the foods that I love, that I really want to eat. But if there's something that I don't really like that much, I won't eat it because it's not the same to me. And I've talked about many times before, like the apple pie that my mother-in-law makes is my favorite apple pie. I will always have a big ass piece whenever she makes it because it's so delicious and it's really only twice, maybe 3 times a year that she makes it. So it's totally worth it. But like other pies, okay, the pie's not a good example. I love pie. I'm not a big fan of birthday cake. I like a really good quality birthday cake, but other than that, and by really good quality, I am kind of bougie with my flavor palettes. My dad is French. My grandparents are from France. We're very snobby when it comes to our food. So it has to be really good, or to me, it's not worth it. And honestly, I think that's a good mindset to have for a lot of people because, like, do you want to eat Little Caesars or do you want to eat an Italian wood fire crust wood fire oven, like fancy artisan pizza. And that's a no-brainer to me. I'm like, I want the artisan pizza. Same thing with beer. I'm not going to have a Bud Light or a Coors Light. That's disgusting. I'm going to have a Belgium triple. So, and for you, maybe you like some of those things, and that's totally fine. But it helps if you're like just in general I'm not saying you shouldn't eat these things, but think about the food. Like, if you're going to the grocery store, you're getting like some pre-made brownies. That's probably not going to taste as good as like your friend making some brownies and bringing them to your house. Like, I'd rather eat the homemade stuff, right? So think about like quality. Like, is this worth it? Like, quality. Is this going to be worth the calories? Not that you need to think that way, but like, really it kind of helps because like for ice cream, it's like, I'm not going to go and get some gas station soft serve ice cream. If I'm going to get ice cream, I'm going to go to like a really awesome ice cream shop that is local and has like their own fancy flavors. You know? I don't know. But really what it comes down to is like, what are the foods that you really enjoy that you want to include in a regular basis into your diet? Are those foods really hard to fit in day to day? Which some of them might be. So how can you allow yourself to have them, but create some boundaries to where it's not hindering your progress? And so honestly, something that I do, and this is like seasons, right? You should not be in a cut for the most part longer than, and this is nuanced. If you're super, super overweight, then you can be in a cut for a long period of time because that will make you healthier. Whereas like if you're like pretty lean, have a good healthy body composition, you should not be in a cut for longer than 12 weeks. But if you are in a cut, that's when like I'm more rigid because I want to get in and get out. I don't want to be in that cut for longer than that because that can cause negative health repercussions for me. Talked about in the past, I have hormone imbalances and physiological stress like that really impacts my hormone profile. So I like to get in and get out. So during that period, I probably won't go out to eat. Usually I go out to eat about once a week, maybe twice, maybe 3 times if you count like a church gathering or some night with family and friends. But usually it's like once a week. When I'm on a cut, I might not go out to eat at all because it makes it easier. I can control the variables. I might decide to not eat some of those indulgent foods that when I'm at maintenance or in a slight surplus, I might indulge in. So it just makes it easier because one, I want to make sure that I'm healthy, so I want to make sure I'm getting the nutrients that my body requires, but also the more I can control, the less time I have to spend in a miserable state because I like to eat food, so I don't want to be in a cut longer than I need to. And that's usually what I recommend, being more 95-5 even in a cut. Whereas like maintenance, 80-20, 90-10, pretty good, pretty standard, that's totally fine. But when you're in a cut, you might need to dial things in a little bit. And maybe you plan like every 2 weeks you have a date night that is untracked. Again, don't eat like an asshole, but maybe you have some food that you don't get to eat a lot. Then when you're at maintenance, you have more flexibility because you have more calories. So that's when you can probably have a beer once a week. In a cut? Probably not. Probably not. So that's kind of how I manage that. And that's why during the holidays, I do not like my clients to be in a cut. I have a lot of clients that are really new to training and nutrition. So for them, we're just focusing on protein. Protein and fiber, making sure they're eating, a high protein breakfast that'll help crush some of those cravings and just being more mindful when they're eating. Then the clients who are more advanced in tracking, we're in a surplus right now because that gives them the ability to convert those extra calories that they're probably going to eat anyway into muscle. So if you're in a cut right now, I'd recommend reversing out of it and giving yourself more margin of error, but it's kind of late now. But Yeah. But all foods can fit into a healthy diet. It's just how much. And another thing, a lot of quote unquote unhealthy foods are just very calorie dense, high in fats, high in refined carbohydrates. So they're not super filling, which is why the tracking enables you to fit them in without overindulging and compromising your results. So anyway, I was kind of all over the place today, but if this was helpful and you're still listening, well, I guess in summation, don't stress about your nutrition over the holidays, but be mindful. Pick the foods that you enjoy eating, and if you don't enjoy it, don't eat it. That's okay. If someone's offended, that's their problem. You can just say, no, thank you. I'm not hungry, or yeah. Some people won't listen, so you can maybe take it and pretend to eat it, but just do what you want to do. Don't try to mold to other people, because that's another thing I see people do is they tend to try to compromise what they want to make somebody else feel better, and that's a whole nother conversation for another podcast episode. But anyway, be mindful and eat the foods that you enjoy. Don't stress about overindulging. We're all going to probably overindulge. I already know I'm going to have a beer on Christmas, because why not? It's Christmas. And I'm grateful for what Jesus did for us, so I'm going to celebrate with a tasty Belgium triple. So enjoy the holidays, eat the foods that you enjoy, but don't stay in that state. And that's the other thing. I've talked about this quite a bit, but I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but just get back to your regular routine as quickly as you can, and you will not see any negative repercussions from those overindulgent days. So anyway, on that note, Merry Christmas. I hope you guys have a great holiday. I probably will be dropping a Christmas episode, and it'll probably just be me saying Merry Christmas. And yeah, if you've enjoyed the show, please rate, subscribe, share it, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.